Our family knows how to push our buttons because they installed them. But it's like, if you want to be part of a team, especially a family team, which has its own history and dynamics, if you can be self-aware and work towards that, is a game changer. Yeah. It really improves the experience for everyone. So, say for example, frequently I will get both the senior generation and the junior generation to tell their farming story. Tell your story as far back as you care to go. It's amazing how frequently they will look across the table and go, really? I didn't know that.
From the peak of Saddle Butte to the depths of the LaPorte Slough, this is the Trent Klarenbach Podcast, brought to you by Klarenbach Research, publisher of the Klarenbach Grain Report and the Klarenbach Special Crops Report. I'm very excited about today's guest. I met her speaking at a conference here at a meeting about a year ago, I guess. She gave a presentation on business consulting and family succession in business. She's high energy, full of life. She's got a twinkle in her eye. Some might think it's mischievous. I don't know. But her name is Patti Durand. She's the principal of Brightrack Consulting, one of the founders there with her partner, Chris Corbett. And she's the author of a book that is getting rave reviews. It is called The Future Leader, The Successor's Guide to Family Business Leadership. Patti, great to have you on today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
That's great. I'm glad you made it in. Who is Patti Durand and what gets you excited?
Hoo-wee.
What gets you excited?
So I have come to appreciate that I am on this planet as an encourager. So I just recognize that everybody in every facet of their life needs someone that is like telling them, you can do this, you got this, pick up your socks, do what you got to do, dust yourself off, keep going. And it's a role I play in my family, in my work, in my communities. Once I kind of understood that about myself and the power that brings, that the energy you talked about, I'm not wasting it. So what gets me excited? What gives me energy? Seeing people connect the dots. When I can help them to gain that understanding and then they can take it and run with it, that I'm working myself out of a job, that's a great day.
That's a good day.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. You've helped me today. You introduced two different ways to look at the world for me.
Oh.
You introduced me to a couple different concepts. I told you haven't done something yet. You corrected me and said you haven't done it yet.
Completely. And I use it most with grade 9 basketball, young women. Okay. I can't do this. I'm like, you can't do it yet.
Right.
This takes practice. You cannot just like show up and be amazing at everything. But I think it doesn't matter what age we are. We can have this narrative in our head. I can't do that. I'm not able. I'll never be able to. It's like, I can't do it yet. Now, there's always limitations, but are we limiting ourselves? And the way we talk to ourselves matters.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and my command of the English language doesn't help me pronounce that one word. When we're doing the first takes of this recording, I couldn't get anything right. And what was my amygdala?
Amygdala hijack.
Amygdala hijack. Okay.
So amygdala hijack is the concept, and this is from neuroscience and neurobiology, which I'm not an expert, but I read in extensively. I'm like, what is it that makes people behave the way they do? And one thing is we have a very old primitive instinct that is to protect us, that shows up as fight, flight, freeze, fawn. There's a few different versions, but basically our body takes and brain takes all of the resources away from the frontal part of our lobe where we have speech and the ability to listen and have cognition and processing, takes it all away and moves it to be able to protect ourselves, to escape, to retreat, to curl up, basically. And so when that happens, it means we have no access to good speech, to saying difficult things, to being on a live podcast and doing a recording and doing it perfectly. It really undermines us. But when we know it's happening, lo and behold, we can like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I'm not able to be at my best. And that's okay.
It helps understand who we are and why we are the way we are, doesn't it?
Oh my gosh.
And so what you were referencing to, is that what they call the lizard brain?
Yeah, absolutely. It basically refers back to our most primitive function of survival. But we're not trying to avoid being attacked by tigers and lions anymore.
Right.
And in our world, our brain perceives things that are probably less dangerous as more dangerous. It's like the scale moved. And so just noticing that in ourselves and saying, that's probably not serving me is, I spend a lot of time with families, specifically in ones where they're blow-ups. When someone is in that angry, elevated mode, nothing good has ever come from that.
No.
And so helping them to recognize it, time out, and go and calm down and then circle back to have productive conversation.
Well, in the family, you deal with families, like you say, quite a bit. And the family dynamics, there's a lot of history there. There's a lot of history from, well, we're influenced by our family to a great degree. Our parents, there's a relationship structure there, dynamic that gets developed at a young age, right?
Well, it shapes us. I think myself too, I go back to my early days and I'm like, oh, like that influences this and how I respond to that. And you start connecting the dots, kind of knowing myself as part of it. But also Elizabeth Gilbert, is an author. She wrote Eat, Pray, Love. Oh, yeah. But another book she wrote, she has a quote, "Our family knows how to push our buttons because they installed them."
Yeah, that's true, isn't it? That is absolutely true.
It's true. And sometimes, damn it. I don't love it, but it's like, I think we can all identify.
Yeah, absolutely. And once we understand who we are, have a bit greater understanding of our own behaviors and what our triggers are, we can certainly, that's kind of a game changer.
Completely.
It has been for me, and I'm learning that process.
Well, and I think that you highlighted it. It's about noticing it, going, wow, that really created a great response in me. And another way that I've heard it explained is if your response is a 5 or greater, like it's a big response, generally it means it's something else other than what just happened.
Right.
So it's a tell.
It's never usually about the other individual or that incident, is it? It's usually something else that triggered it, brought up a memory, triggered an emotion.
It can. And I mean, it's not that everything has so much depth all the time, like analyzing it endlessly isn't really necessarily helpful either. But it's like, if you want to be part of a team, especially a family team, which has its own history and dynamics, if you can be self-aware and work towards that, is a game changer. Yeah. It really improves the experience for everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah, I find myself now, I get triggered still, right? Mm-hmm. Not as often as I used to be, and my reaction is completely different to how it used to be either, because I'm becoming more aware. I recognize that feeling, and I'm starting to react differently and recognize it for what it is, and really control my responses. Before, they used to be just absolutely reactive. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, and I think in the work that I've done, so meeting with hundreds of families, these business families over years, I'm recognizing that a big chunk of the work that I'm doing is about interrupting cycles. And so what you're describing is interrupting a cycle. You learn that behavior in your life from whatever examples were set from you. Sometimes it's literally built into our genes, and you're like, no, I'm going to choose a different path.
Yes.
And it takes time, and sometimes we slip off it and we go back and we're like, damn it, I did it again. Or we're like, nope, I'm going to time out, I'm going to take some time, and it changes the story. And hopefully that means that our kids are seeing better things too, so they can do even better for their kids.
It takes time, right? Like I started, it sounds kind of silly, but I started rewiring my brain, for lack of a better term, probably about the age of 22 or 24 maybe.
A little late.
Well, I don't know if that was early or late, but I tell you, that progression is really slow for a lot of years. And then I think 30 years later, it's starting to, some cumulative effects now happening. But it's hard to do. It's hard to change the way you think.
Well, because we like ourselves. We're our favorite person.
I think that's true.
And so I've certainly sat with people, I would say older generation, often men, women can be in this role too, where they're like, oh, well, that's just the way I am. I just blow up. Actually, you have a choice. You get to control your response. That's an opportunity. Yeah. And literally only you can do it. And that's the only person you have control over. Hearing that and actually internalizing it can be pretty hard for some people. And they may never get there. But we'll keep trying.
Yeah, you're right? It's just hopefully you get there. And it's not easy to overcome. Absolutely. So in your consulting business, Brightrack Consulting, you tell me more about that business and what led you to doing that.
Sure. So I'll go back to the beginning.
Let's do that.
So I grew up on a hog and seed farm north of Winnipeg, Manitoba, a community called Toulon, Manitoba, and my farming dad passed away when I was 16, and I come from a communicating family and a planning family.
Wow.
And so lo and behold, now it's not perfect. we all have our stuff. We all have our buttons that get pushed. But I've told my mom several times in my work in the past 10 years in particular, I'm like, Mom, you taught me how to do this. You taught me how to have hard conversations. This was normal in our household. And the planning that my mom and dad and conversations they'd had was that we had the privilege of focusing on grieving and not worrying about whether we could pay for groceries. And that is not something that every family has. There's a lot of unknowns and unpreparedness, unfortunately. And so that's a piece of the puzzle. I have a degree in agriculture from University of Manitoba. My background actually was in plant science originally. I'm a complete crop nerd. And to this day, give me some plants any day. But it's where I met my husband. And he has an agronomic consulting business, Feel Good Agronomics, based out of Humboldt, and does independent agronomy to this day. And so that's one of our businesses. He and I have had several ventures during our married life, which was 27 years last week. So,
oh, well, congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's something to celebrate for sure.
Yeah.
And I will often say, I can't tell you what our next business will be because I haven't seen it yet.
Right.
We are just watching and seeing what opportunities there will be. In my career, I have always been generally working in agriculture, and it evolved to, in 2014, I worked for Scotiabank for a few years. And interestingly, coming from an entrepreneurial background, coming from a communicating family, having worked in the industry, the credit and lending piece was something that I understood it from the finance side as an individual business person, but not from the credit adjudication, that side. What I didn't know is that experience was actually what completed my kind of that scope of understanding, which prepared me for when I was approached and asked to work and co-lead the pilot at Farm Credit Canada for advisory services in 2018. Okay. So effectively, Farm Credit Canada has been a long trusted brand in the industry, and their customers were coming and saying, hey, transition's not going well, succession's hard, we're struggling, help us. And there wasn't a really good answer. And so as part of this pilot, our challenge was, what's holding people back? What are families struggling with? And how do we get them unstuck? What's missing? And so, again, I was part of the beginning, but it evolved. It's now a going concern. It's a permanent service, and it's spread across Canada. There's 14 advisors coast to coast, which I'm so proud to have been part of the origin of that. Thousands of families are getting services. And in the time I worked there, and then in the following 6 years, I worked with over 350 families.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot. And I would say I don't recommend it. It's a lot. And it's, personally as an empath, it's heavy.
Yeah, it would be.
People share their stuff. But what I realized is that because there was no filter for sitting down with us, if you farmed in Canada, we would talk to you, basically was the criteria. It was a randomized trial. So I sat with very large operations and very small operations, mixed, very specialized, quite sophisticated, rather simple, relatively urban, quite rural. And it was the common threads I was seeing. Wait a minute, there's more here. And so I saw more that needed doing in the industry, and ultimately I don't stay in the box very well. So as an entrepreneur, I said, you know what, I'm so grateful for what happened at FCC, but in November of 23, I departed and started Brightrack. And it's to go and do the things I think need doing. And that's what I'm up to.
I love that. There's so much to digest there and recap. First of all, I just love when people, I use the term bet on themselves. Mm-hmm. You know, you probably left some comfort and security to
certainly
your own business. That's quite remarkable. I'm always impressed with those stories. But the commonality between the different operations and different geographic areas, different the demographic area, the different type of businesses and size of businesses, it's really interesting you said that. When I was in entrepreneurs organization, Saskatoon here, we had forums, and I was probably the smallest business in my forum. And I thought, what am I going to offer these guys, But I found out that every business has the same problems. It's usually HR and human relationships. And it doesn't matter the size of the business. There might be a few more zeros to it, but it's the same, similar, the same problems every time.
The common threads overwhelmed me. And at first I was like, when you see patterns, so I recognize I'm a pattern seeker. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, these dots connect. And this is the same, coming from the same place, and it sounds the same. Now, sometimes you're making misassumptions. It's just a coincidence. But over time, when you get that many reps in, it's like, nope, this is definitely common threads. And my kind of gut feel or sensation was, as number one, the need is overwhelming.
Yes.
I don't think that there's a family business that wouldn't benefit from a conversation to help them start thinking more strategically, to think about communication. Wherever they are, there's places they can move forward to. So that was something that I was like, oh my gosh, I am one person. How can I possibly influence change? The other thing is just this repeat on my head, oh my gosh, they don't know. They don't know these basic foundational things, beliefs that are just not serving anybody if they ever did.
Yes.
For example, my parents have a plan for succession that they will reveal to me when the time comes.
Yeah.
The risk of a successor thinking there's a plan when there isn't. When that hope is lost or destroyed is powerful and unnecessary. But the parents somehow feel this need that they're responsible for coming up with it. And they have beautiful intention. They absolutely intend to help and prepare and help the successor be successful. But they really are often unclear about what that's going to look like and underestimate how long it will take to figure it out.
Right. I can appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's one example.
Yeah. Well, so we should probably clarify that all businesses have the same succession challenges with it, right?
Largely. There's some universalities, I think I would say. Yeah, common bonds.
Yeah, so a family business and urban center has similar challenges to a farm operation.
Yes. So the book you referred to at the beginning, so so the future leader in the book, that was one thing when I wrote it, I gave myself two challenges. Number one, I said, I wonder if I can write this without referring to agriculture.
Yes.
Because I just have this sense, I don't think agriculture is special in this realm. I think it is the dynamics of family and interaction with business that is the common bond that is of note. And so I did that, and I'm very pleased that farmers who read it, advisors who read it within the ag industry see themselves immediately. They're like, yes, this is for us. But so do hardware store owners.
Right.
And so do manufacturers. And so do advisory businesses. And I'm like, it worked. I was thrilled. Mm-hmm. Number two, I was very concerned. So it's a business fable in which there's a successor and a mentor who's a family friend that they interact, and it's their conversation about and learning some of the lessons. And I was very concerned that someone would read it and say, oh, well, that character's a male, so it's not about me. If it's a woman, or vice versa. If it's a woman, well, I'm not. And so I'm like, gender doesn't matter. So one of universalities, it's it doesn't play favorites. This is not restricted to any gender, age, demographic, business size. Pardon me. It just doesn't matter. And so I wrote the characters with gender neutral names. Okay. And I instruct the reader at the beginning of the book, you get to decide the gender of Kelly and Jordan. And as people have come back to me, they're like, well, obviously Kelly's a woman. And the next person, obviously Kelly's a man. I'm like, yes, holy crap, it worked. I couldn't risk it not hitting everybody.
Yeah.
Because it's so important to me to help. And I believe these people are so smart and caring, but they're just missing some of these foundational pieces that really derail their understanding down the path.
Yeah, well, it's not usually taught in school, right?
No.
And usually we don't have this, unless we've had that experience growing up. It's really difficult to develop those skills. And
Can be.
And I'm assuming most people are like me, you don't know what you don't know. And how do you start? How do you finish? How do you get to where you want to get to? You don't even know where to start some of the time.
I think a lot about that. How could I know? When you are an intelligent, experienced, caring person thrust into something you've never done before, how do you know who to ask? How do you know what to ask? Like, there's got to be a way to shorten that path. And that's very much the response of the book. But I think about that even in our general world. Like, we had a recent experience, honestly, with a health concern. And I'm like, I wish I had a Sherpa. Like, I am such a capable, fearless person, but being thrust into that, I was in a case where I'm also worried about my loved one, but also like just feeling kind of stupid and kind of paralyzed and not really sure what to do. It's so disconcerting. And it doesn't have to be that way. But I would say that it is another piece of concern in terms of our advisory community, is that the risk is we as advisors might say, come on guys, we know this is really hard for you farmers, so let us help you out.
Yeah.
No. These are incredible, intelligent, experienced people, these business people. They've just never done this before.
Right.
Let's shorten that gap. Let's fill that gap and hold them capable.
That really resonates with me because I kind of grew up in an environment, and we'll go back to the farming community. When you grow up on the farm, you learn how to operate the equipment, maintain the equipment, you're doing the bookkeeping, you're doing the marketing, you're doing the agronomy work, you're trying to doing all this planning, all this, you're wearing all these different hats. And there's some you're going to be better at than others, some you enjoy more than others. But if you don't reach out for help or ask questions or even know who to ask the questions to, it's really limiting. I found that in my farming career, also in previous businesses too. I have this, I'm starting to overcome it after 30 years, but is to reach out and ask help.
Completely.
And maybe just or ask questions, and maybe instead of trying to internalize the solutions, which if it does come out with a positive outcome, it takes far longer than it needs to be.
So why do you think that is that you were resistant?
I think it's part of the environment where I grew up in. Take a lot of pride in doing things ourselves.
The example set.
Examples are set, and a lot of it would have been through necessity.
Oh.
And
when times are tight. That's a luxury you can't afford.
Yeah. So then when I started farming, I had a large farm. It's quite aggressive, but as far as mechanics work, I had the luxury of two machinists in my small town and a mechanic.
Nice.
And they didn't work for me. They had their own businesses, but they treated me very well and they did all their customers. But there was areas where I knew my time wasn't spent trying to fix something that I wasn't sure how to fix.
Completely.
And trying to, weld something it's like sticking two bubble gum together for me, right? So you sub that out. So that was my first foray into understanding that you don't have to do everything. Just focus on what you can do. But I still battle it every day.
Totally. No, I don't disagree, but I'm always interested in what the driver was. Because I think you're right. I think that there was frequently a scarcity mindset of like, we can't afford that. But they fail to acknowledge, number one, that your time has value.
Yes.
And number two, that if it is more efficient because of expertise, that has value.
Yeah.
But we just never get there. So I'm always curious when people are resistant, why? Yeah. And I think that's incredibly normal.
Yeah, it would have been scarcity. When I had my operation, I was always behind on what needed to get done.
Yeah.
So when these repairs came, I really had no choice but to find the expert to do it for me.
Totally.
It came at a price tag, but so was not getting the other work done that only I could do, right? So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, so I guess, what do those conversations look like? How I imagine that it can be difficult. You have different generations, different genders. There's different experiences between both. Some would be open to awkward conversations. Some might not be.
Yeah.
Maybe nobody is. That's got to be somewhat difficult to navigate.
It can be. So if I think about rooms that I've been in, often with multiple generations, and I call the process I go through looking under rocks.
Look under rocks.
Meaning that I have a general sense of the things that I want to explore, but it's not really an agenda. And I'll explore a particular topic. I'm like, I'll look under this rock. No, nothing there. Oh, look under this rock. No, nothing there. Look under this rock. Oh, here we go. So I'm looking for exposed skin, risks they may not be aware of, missed communication or understanding. So say, for example, frequently I will get both the senior generation and the junior generation to tell their farming story. Right. Tell your story as far back as you care to go. It's amazing how frequently they will look across the table and go, really? I didn't know that. Somehow, because we are together for our entire life, literally, as a family business. And then there's things that just they're just unspoken. They just get missed. Yeah. And especially the hard times of the history, shapes our behavior. So when you got bit, you want to avoid getting bit again. So why do you avoid this? Why is this so important, Mom and Dad? Because we did this, this, and this. So when that understanding is there, then the generation, either direction, can get compassion. They can be like, well, no kidding that made you feel that way. Like, what else can we do differently? Here's why this situation is not the same as what you're talking about. Those types of things. The other thing I would say when I talk about exposed skin and gaps is the reason why the work I do is not pure coaching is because there's so much education. There are misunderstandings about all kinds of terminology, accounting and law in particular. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an accountant, but I have a general working knowledge. And so when I hear them kind of generally describe things, I'm like, is this what this is? And they're like, we think so. I'm like, okay, let's shape a question for your accountant or your lawyer that will help you confirm that.
Oh, yeah.
So part of what I'm doing is helping them to know what questions to ask. I'm less likely to say, do this, and more likely to say, I know enough to know you should ask this. So it's a different model than just being direct advice.
Yeah, so you're helping them ask the questions to find out. Yeah, you're pointing them in the directions, I guess. Right?
I try. Well, and that's where Brightrack comes from. I've been told I shine a light on the path.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right? And sense, so that's part of the idea, right? Like, I'm not going to do it for you. I'm not going to make you do it. I'm not your mom. I'm there to encourage you and give you actionable steps and things to do. You commented on communication and how hard it is. The other thing that I've really come to appreciate is that as advisors, we are frequently asking our clients to have conversations with their family members that they've never had before. And so we assume they have the language, and they often don't. Again, it's not about intelligence. They've just never done this before. So part of the book is an appendix of scripts. It's called Scripts You Can Build On. Oh. And it's like scripts for difficult conversations. How might you say this? Oh, wow. What are considerations before you go into this conversation? To put yourself in the other person's shoes, to think about what you might get triggered by. Prepare ahead of time. And I'll tell you, like, when I have a difficult conversation, like, I'm a professional speaker. I'm on stage all the time. I'm working with people, but I can get triggered just as much as the next person. If I have a really difficult conversation to have, I will literally write it out ahead of time. These are the perfect words. This is what I mean and intend to say. And I will say, Trent, I have something that's really difficult for me to say to you, and so I wrote it out so I say it well, and I don't do harm, and I will literally read it off.
Oh, wow.
Because our brains are not our friend in that situation, that amygdala hijack we talked about.
Interesting. Yeah, well, and you touched on a couple things there in the conversation of the family members are sharing their experiences. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a concept, I guess, or an idea or theory that our memories are not accurate, right? They're not reliable, right? So
they're a version.
They're a version.
And it's a very edited one.
Yeah, so you can't agree on the weather.
Yes.
Quite often, right? Right. And that's the term I used to use.
So
right?
True.
And even to the point where your book is well written in the fact that based on the individual's experience, they're deciding what gender the characters are.
Completely.
And they can't agree on and people aren't agreeing on that, obviously, right?
Right. Right. But that's the beauty of it. It removed it as a barrier.
Yeah.
Because it allowed the people to put themselves into the shoes. Because the story's about them. But by writing in the second person, it's a much safer format.
Yes.
And so people have also said that. They're like, you talk about some really hard things, but it's safe.
Yeah.
And that is like brings tears to my eyes because I'm tired of watching people hurt each other.
Yeah.
I'm tired. And I know we can do better.
Well, and we hurt other people, and it's not necessarily because we're bad people. It's we don't actually know how it's being received or how we're impacting other individuals. So that kind of that don't confuse nefariousness with ignorance concept, right?
Yes.
Like, I have a number of these conversations. Like I didn't mean that, right?
Yes.
I did not know how that was received. That was not my intention, but unless you have those conversations, you never know, and you do it again, and you repeat, and
completely. Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head. That what you're talking about is the next level, where someone comes back and said, "Hey, when you had said this to me, this is the impact it had," because you can't know.
No,
we can't read each other's minds.
No.
And yet somehow we go around imagining that everybody understands how we feel, is aware of the impact they're having on us. We're just not. I'll say, like you talked about me being high energy, I can leave a trail of chaos in my path. Like, and I know it. I'm very aware.
Yeah.
I want to use it for good instead of evil, but I could be a lot. And so I just, it's a consciousness, right? It's that concept of overplayed strengths, right? We all have these things that are potentially good, but too much of a good thing.
Yeah.
So there's a time and a place, I guess. But no, I really, I hear you. Absolutely.
Yeah. So initiating those conversations, I guess obviously the family needs to initiate them.
Yes. And
do you find it's by the parents or the children, or how does that, or they come to agreement that this needs to get done, or is there you ever see reluctance between one party for participating, or?
Oh, certainly. Yes, absolutely. And I will say that actually is kind of one of my known knowns is I cannot make someone care. So if someone really doesn't want to be at the table, it doesn't make sense to have me there.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm not going to be there to force them. This is not going to be an intervention. In that instance, I can offer coaching to the people that do want some help because they can work on themselves. They can work on there's things they can be doing in the meantime. And I have had situations where people said no initially and then kind of came around. And so I'll tell you, there's enough people that are aware and do want this that for me to try to convince people that don't want to be at the table, like I can't force the medicine, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
So that's, yes, and your book now, you mentioned earlier, you want to help as many people as possible.
Right.
And obviously that was a reason, or I guess a motivation for publishing the book.
Very much so. It was, I'll just insert in here, that was something it's the book I wish I'd had when I'm advising families. I'm sitting across from successors and their parents actually, and thinking about what needs to happen and how they might need to prepare. And it's like a 2-hour meeting. I can't possibly give them all of the little nuggets and pieces and insights and perspectives, and like it's just too much. And so the book is really that handbook. It's really a resource, ideally, that is a place to start. I find so often there's material about this in Succession, but it tends to be at a higher level and go down a narrower lane. And this book is a very broad place to start. It's a general understanding of the dynamics of a family and a business and the challenges with succession and how they might prepare themselves and what they can take action on. It's throughout the book, there's action tasks. So like, and for some it's going to be just like, oh yeah, it's kind of high level, but for others they're literally using it as a workbook. Okay, I did these 3 action tasks in chapter 1, now I'm going to the next chapter. It's a how-to.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think a lot of us need that. We don't have the communication skills that we wish we would have had, and
yes,
I mean, and then you get a family dynamics, right? Those are whatever those skills are installed early on, and to overcome that and learn them is Yeah, I think the book is a great resource for a lot of family businesses, not
Thank you.
just farmers.
I appreciate it. Yeah, that's what I'm being told. And but I also, there's a lot of work to be done here. It will take all of us.
Yeah, well, there's no shortage of businesses. So the statistics of business owners ready to retire in the next 10 years in North America is just, I forget the number. It's off the charts, right?
Yeah, huge.
And either that business gets shut down or there's a successful succession somehow in that business, right?
That's been actually something that's been on my mind because this is not new news. Like succession and transition conversations have been happening for decades. Like we got to do better, we got to do it, you got to plan more, da 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 da. So Merle Good out of Alberta told me about the first program he was involved with was in 1972. So if the first program was in 1972 and in 2021, 12% of Canadian farms have a plan, something's wrong.
Something's wrong.
Like we're messing something up here. And I have one of my hunches is that we are not starting early enough in terms of holding the successor capable. Our successors are being told, work hard and wait and trust us. And that so undermines all of their potential. Like they can be right? That like they for sure, like I want them to be good operators. But what if they were good managers and good leaders and thinking about their own behavior and thinking about communicating? And so that was the other feature I would say in the book is I wrote it that a 15-year-old could pick this up and read it easily. Not that it's dumbed down per se, but it's accessible language. It's not super technical, but it's really human and interesting. That's the beauty of the story, right? Is that you kind of find yourself in it. So that would be my hope is that what if we started earlier with these successors, that they came out of the gate with better understandings of their responsibility to prepare themselves. That gets me excited.
Well, yeah, and we assume we're going to live for a long time.
Right.
But there could be some sort of health crisis in between that point, right?
Completely.
And you just never know. You know, I'm at that age now where my friends are getting sick and some are passing away.
Yeah.
And I think, I think they're glad they didn't wait 30 years to right the ship or get the ship in order, right? So,
completely.
Yeah.
Completely. If we can add the successor to the equation of the conversation of how to navigate future planning, I think that it will be so much more robust and creative and likely to hit the mark in terms of what they are really passionate about.
Yeah.
And leaving them in a waiting game and forcing them to work hard and be patient, I'm not convinced is having the outcomes that our parents actually desire.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. I didn't have the I guess the interest in not knowing what my future was going to be like.
Right.
Or not having control of it, I guess.
Completely.
So I made some decisions early on in my life for that. So
Yeah.
be difficult. So awkward conversations, I try to avoid them as often as I can.
Fair.
And,
How's that going for you?
well, I can kick the can down the road, and
Yeah.
eventually the conversation happens.
Yeah.
The conversation happens. The longer I kick the can down the road, there's usually a little bit more emotion attached to the conversation. But the conversation, in my experience, has never been as awkward or as a horrible experience as I anticipated it would. I wish I would have had those conversations earlier, every single time, because they were never as bad.
I completely agree.
And how do we, it's not easy for us, how do we overcome that? Like as a success, or say the business owner, I guess maybe the parent, I'm not sure what that all this looks like, but how do we get that confidence to have that conversation?
Well, I think there's a few things. And I talked about scripting earlier. So like that writing out of okay, what are the actual words I want to say? But I will say personally, I have a policy of, it's a loose policy, but just by the way I think about it is clean up aisle 7 before it dries.
Oh, yeah.
Meaning,
so
someone drops a jar of pasta sauce. There's freaking glass, there's sauce, and it's a hazard, it's gross, it does not get better with time. It dries out and you have to scrape it off the floor. So if I have a sense that I may have offended someone or rubbed someone the wrong way or something just didn't land well with me, because you know that sensation, you know pretty quickly, you're like, ugh, that did not feel great.
Yeah.
And if you haven't developed that skill yet, you can work on it, it's something you can improve upon. But you can say, and I'll be that person, I'll be like, you know what, Trent, we had that conversation and something didn't feel right. Are we good? Right? Like I will check in. So that's like a really quick, a really quick check-in. And sometimes it'll be like, Patti, I would say more often than not, it'd be like, Patti, what are you talking about? Like you're making something up and that whatever. But I'd rather do that and be wrong than wish I had.
Yes, yeah.
It's kind of the policy. But also when I have done wrong, it tends not to have lingered and impacted our relationship in other ways. And so I just, it's my own holding to account of how I've shifted my mind. And you have a lot of evidence, as you described, that it's often not as bad as you imagine it will be. So it's about just saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to choose differently. And it's a practice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found, there's still some conversations I have to have, right?
Yes.
But when I've had those conversations, acknowledged maybe a wrongdoing, or what's the right term, or the idea that I could have sent the wrong message to somebody, right? Or definitely, or when I have sent the wrong message, or it's even acknowledging having done that or having concern that I did.
Totally
goes a long way for that.
It's huge. Like when someone recognizes that you care to be accountable.
Yeah.
And so I have a little Post-it note on my monitor in my office. It's OYS. And so you can imagine the language, but I'll say own your stuff.
Yeah.
Basically, what's mine? What did I do here? I'm not always proud of it, but that's not the point. It's like I think we can all own our stuff better. We have somehow a misconception in our world that leaders, part of being a leader is kind of denying the balls you dropped, right? It's like saying, well, I didn't do that. That wasn't me. It's denying. I'm like, no. Leadership is accountability.
Absolutely.
Owning it. Saying, wow, I really dropped that ball, or I slipped up, or had an impact I didn't intend. All of those things, that's leadership. And I think that if we can reframe that, and for that to be something to be proud of, as opposed to trying to protect your ego that you never make mistakes, which is not possible or human. I think, it's a path that I'm excited to see.
Yeah, I don't think, if you're in that leadership position, but you're not owning your stuff, as you say, you're not going to have many followers if you're the leader, right?
Right.
You might be a manager.
Right, or a dictator.
But you won't be the leader, yeah.
Completely, and I there's misconceptions about that, and I think about that often. Like, leadership is a behavior; it's not a title.
Right. It's something would be earned.
It can be.
Can be earned.
It can be, I think.
Like you earn as you display the qualities that people.
What do you think?
Well, I think there's different styles of leadership. Some people are vocal. Loud, or might be the term. Other people are quiet leaders. They're the ones picking up the pieces. They're the ones, just playing rec hockey, right? We have leaders who will book the games and make all the arrangements, and we'll have other guys who will make sure there's beer at the game, and there's other guys who will make sure the water bottles and the pucks are there, right? Everybody's a leader, just different styles and method,
Yeah.
But as long as it doesn't really account for being accountable, but it kind of is, I think.
It can be.
Yeah.
It can be in terms of I keep that promise, or I keep that commitment.
Yeah, I'm participating. I want to contribute and be I respect the process and the obligations that are required to make this work. And
I think about the successor in particular, that somehow they're waiting for their turn, and I'm like, you can be a leader right now.
Oh yeah.
You can lead by example right now, and I feel like that's news to many.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's especially in a family, right? Because you're told what's right and wrong from a very young age.
There's a pecking order.
There's a pecking order. There's reward. There's penalties, I guess you might say, right?
Completely.
And it's very difficult to get out of that framework or that that hierarchy, I guess you might say.
It can be, absolutely. And I mean, those are some of my favorite leaders of the senior generation, when they recognize that their most powerful leadership they can do is to get out of the way and
Yes.
sometimes remove themselves completely. Not that I think that's a requirement, but sometimes they are not able to not dictate. They're not able to not be a controlling person. And so the best thing they can do to equip the next gen is to step back altogether. Again, not every instance, but that self-awareness. Those are people who are owning their stuff.
Yeah. Like, do you think that's, I'm just going to use myself as an example. The more confident I get as an individual, the more happier I become as an individual, the easier it is for me to own my own stuff. The easier it is for me to delegate, to share, and I'm not the threat, I guess, of someone else getting an applause or whatever.
Yeah, you know what I think about, like, how being insecure would make you less likely to own your stuff. I think that's accurate. I think it's interesting though, because it's almost a contradiction that the more you do it, the better it feels.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure if it's chicken or the egg. Like, I'm not sure if you can start to do that. I do think that the environment matters. So there's certainly cultures where it's not safe to own your stuff.
Right.
And that's a bigger conversation.
Yes.
But I'd say, like, whenever possible, if you can lead in that way, you make it safer for other people to own their own and be accountable as well. Yeah. And so there's a leading by example there that I think can make a difference. But I would ask people to reflect. Is it safe to own your stuff in your current culture, in the business where you are, and whether that's an advisor, whether that's a business, family business, in any scenario situation. It's just an absolute shame when people cannot be accountable, like, own their stuff. And the reason why I say that is because then you don't try stuff, because you're afraid of failing.
Absolutely.
Right? And it creates this cycle that is really unhealthy and certainly not creative or productive.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the reflecting, you touched on, to reflect, right? And we all do it, right? But it's
some more than others.
I find that I am an information junkie to a degree, right? Not a news junkie, information. So I'm always got a podcast. I'm walking somewhere.
I'm not dissimilar. I hear you.
And every once in a while, I say, no, we're not going to listen to anything. And it's quite amazing how enjoyable those times alone with my thoughts are. I'm not alone with my thoughts very often.
No, I believe that.
And you start reflecting, and it's not always, you don't always reflect on what you want to, it's not always the best memories that come up, right? But
you need to have space for that, though. Like, I think about that myself, is we live in an age in which you can be just absolutely fire hosed with water, with information all the time, 24/7. And in fact, it's that space and that quiet where we can unpack our brains and really pay attention to things that are bothering us. I'm like, oh, that's something. What does that mean? Why is that niggling? Why am I feeling uncomfortable because of that conversation? Why is that coming up? Right? You can reflect on it, but without space for it, what was once difficult is now becoming even more complex.
Right. Do you meditate?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually have a new meditation. I'm not sure if you've ever read Solve for Happy by Mo Gadot.
I have not. No.
But fascinating in many ways. And one of the things he suggests is a meditation. It's a journaling meditation. And in his case, he calls it Listen to Becky. And he dubbed his brain Becky because is like this nattering, chattering voice. It was named after a girl in high school for him.
Oh, yeah.
But he just, it's like he really unpacks all the little thoughts in his brain so that they are heard, so they are acknowledged. Because if you're familiar, I can't speak for you, but I know myself, there's times when stuff gets in my brain and just spins.
Oh, yes.
I don't actually resolve it. I don't actually do anything with it, but it certainly just comes up.
There's this infinite loop.
Exactly. And so it's designed to unpack that. So in my case, I call it Listen to Debbie, and Debbie is just it's a family joke. There's nobody in specific that is named that, but it's like, what's niggling on my brain? What am I thinking about that is spinning? And it's very interesting. By unpacking it and writing it, it puts it away.
Interesting.
It acknowledges it.
Jeez, I should try that.
It's quite fascinating.
I spent most of my life in this infinite loop.
Oh my
in
gosh.
Head. So how I got through high school, I'm quite amazed. I got through university and got shocked because I literally go to class and walk out of that class. Not a clue.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Wow. And I'd cram for the exams and I learned enough to get, I did decent and everything, but it was, probably haven't been as present as I wish I would have been because I always had this little, but these, it's kind of funny. I'm aware of it now, so I can turn it off.
Yes.
But I didn't realize it, but you get the same phrase or same little scenario running. It just is bizarre. Mm-hmm. Really just disconcerting, actually. When you, I kind of hope everybody has that because it's disturbing if they don't, right? But it was.
I think some more than others. It tends to be. For me, when I have that spin, I know that that's when I'm getting to close to my capacity. Because the spin that happens for me is when I'm working with families. My time out that I'm spending with them is not just when I'm in front of them. It's when I wake up in the morning. It's when I go to bed at night. It's when I'm out for a walk. I'm just constantly unpacking and rethinking about, okay, well, how did that conversation go? Why? What was I missing? What questions could I be asking? What are the threads of connection? And so it's part of the reason now, I only, about 25% of my time is client facing.
Okay.
I can't, more than that is unhealthy for me.
Oh, yeah.
It's too much. It's really hard on my heart and my mind.
You're an empath, right? Yeah.
Deeply.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can see where, that the work doesn't start at the beginning of the meeting and end at the meeting close because you're trying to, it sounds like you're trying to solve this puzzle, this communication puzzle that's not being completed.
Or give them some lines of sight for something else, other. What else could they try? What are some things? Because they're stuck, and I think about getting them unstuck and helping them to take steps to change the story, find information to answers they don't know the answers to, ask really good questions, have conversations they haven't had before, and change some of their practices and habits and routines. They only have a sample set of one often. They have their one business, and they're missing other. They don't know that there's other ways often. Again, not because of lack of intelligence. It's just their situation.
Yeah. Yeah, you just don't know what you don't know, typically in life.
Totally.
I'll repeat that one again. So maybe I asked this question already, but I really maybe want to circle back to it. Is I'm always, maybe I'm trying to think, get a better understanding, I guess, of why a successor in a business, that's their pride and their joy. In some cases, it's been identity.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a challenge.
For the senior generation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Founder. Okay.
And then, what are some of the complexities that might arise where they don't want to have those conversations with a successor? Where they don't, is there tough questions? Is there that whole multiple siblings, multiple successors maybe, right?
Yes.
Does that just lead to, are they trying to kick a can down the road or what's going on?
I think, there's a buffet of possibilities. But ultimately, I'll go back to parents have the sensation that they need to come up with a plan.
Okay,
And that responsibility weighs heavily on them. And they don't know what the answer is. But they may not feel it's urgent. They're like, okay, well, when we want to leave, we'll figure it out. And I will say it takes longer than people often imagine in terms of the nuances and technicalities, not just of the structure and tax and legal, all of those things, but what is it we actually want? They have a general idea, but they haven't described it in intimate detail. And so that's probably one of the number one things I do with people is describe the future, paint the picture, as much color as you can, focus the binoculars. What is it you're aiming for? Because often at that point, they recognize not actually aiming for the same thing. So that's really important. Let's truth this early and get aligned in what we're trying to achieve as a couple or as a business. And then we can go to our professionals and say, based on our desired outcome, what would you recommend the best way to get there? Or what are some options we could consider? Often, I've heard of individuals or business owners going to their professionals saying, make me a transition plan. Oh. And that's the equivalent of like picking up your iPhone and saying, Siri, tell me where to go.
Yeah.
You're responsible for your destination, your desire, and their ability. So again, that was just a misunderstanding of what their responsibility is or what transition actually means. It's more than tax. It's more than estate. It's more than, like, there's so many components of it. It takes deep, robust thought, uninterrupted, on repetition. And people deeply underestimate that because they're busy.
So would it be fair to me to say that there's often a focus on what's not important and not on focus? So we focus, reason look at this.
Yeah.
Well, provide more context. I'm looking at, you touched on tax reasons, and that's important, I suppose,
Completely.
Right? But is it the family relationships that is often, like, sometimes those two don't work well together, right?
Right.
So
pardon me.
I guess that's the balancing act, isn't it?
So I will say that the way that I phrase it with people is describe your desired outcome and then ask your professional, what's the most tax efficient way to achieve this?
There you go. Yeah.
Okay. If you say, I need to transition and save tax, the most efficient way to save tax may or may not achieve what you want.
Right.
And may or may not consider any relationships. And so, the saying about the tax tail wagging the dog, pardon me, sorry. So that can get kind of misconstrued. They think, okay, well, we just got to do this tax efficiently because it's been such a focus of their financial habits in their business life. And so that's one thing to consider. The other thing I would say is I ask families, put a price tag on relationships for me.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And then we'll put it in order of priority.
And that changes the path you take.
You would hope.
Yeah.
For some, it doesn't. For some, they are very business focused, and their heirs should be grateful. And that's their perspective, and they're allowed. It's their business.
Yeah. There's no right or wrong.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I come into a room, my opinion's kind of irrelevant. Meaning, I have bias of my preference of how I would do things with my family, but my job is to figure out what their preference is and their desires for their family, and then navigate the best way to try to achieve that, and help them with the language and designing the questions they need to ask in order to reach that outcome. So they can go to their other professionals and feel equipped and feel prepared, and to make sure that doesn't get stalled, because they are often feeling it's disconcerting for them.
Yeah, and I like the idea you have a script and helping them ask the questions, because the questions are what produces the outcome.
I hope, absolutely. I find accountants and lawyers in particular, like, they are excellent professionals that are particularly good at implementing instructions.
Right.
But that requires that you have instructions.
And that's what I'm learning from AI.
Yeah.
The output is determined by the input.
Absolutely. The prompt is critical.
It's absolutely critical. And the challenge I have is producing the right prompts.
Yes. It's a skill.
It's a skill. And there's, I got a buddy I use as a reference, higher education, more experience in academics than I have.
Yeah.
And his prompts are quite a bit different than mine. Huh. And the output is as well too, right? Yeah. So without knowing what to ask, it's hard to get the answer you want.
Even pre-AI, exactly, just basically a Google search.
Yeah.
My husband can be searching for something, cannot find it. I come and search for it and find it, and vice versa.
Yes.
So I'll be searching for something, can't find it, he'll come. So we have different approaches, different brain processes.
Yeah.
that I love that. That should be, that. Thank goodness we're not all the same.
Oh, absolutely.
And to be able to celebrate that in a family is often a big focus of mine.
Yeah.
Like, we're not all sitting around saying the same thing. We're saying different things, and that should be celebrated, not criticized.
Yeah. There's a couple different hymn books to sing about, right?
Right,
You know?
exactly.
I don't know.
No, for sure.
Analogy,
No,
but
that's exactly right. It's like there's more than, yeah. I remind people, there is no one way.
right.
And there is no perfect way. There is a way that will be best for your family. If they can get their head around that they are driving this bus and they are responsible for describing what they're trying to achieve. So everybody on the bus understands, including the advisors they bring to the table. All these analogies, sorry. But that's really powerful.
Yes.
Like, and they may not know the answer, and that's okay, but they can work on it.
I love that message. Yes. It's
Thank
great. Thought of a question for you.
Please, go ahead.
Who are some of your influences?
Well, I talked about my mom.
Yes.
Like, she continues to she's a fearless woman, and I admire her greatly. And she is has a nature of conversation, and it's something that I value greatly. People I follow, I'm a huge Simon Sinek fan.
Okay.
I think very much about helping people to be able to articulate their why, which he really spoke about so well, and continues to. And I think about he has this podcast, A Bit of Optimism, and that is very much my frame of mind. Is my glass is half full. I'm always going to be looking at the sunshine side, not to deny that there are sucky things in life, but like that we have this opportunity to choose the right track.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say Brene Brown.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot about her in terms of as a social scientist, and her deep explanation of empathy and understanding and how we can care for each other, and the language around that. So those would be the top ones, I would say.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read a little bit of Brene Brown, a little bit of Simon.
Yeah.
So every time I see some of their work, it's always resonated with me, of course, right? And
Yeah.
there's great value there.
Yeah.
Can you identify a formative event in your life that has really shaped you for who you are today?
Well, I can think of a few.
Well, we can talk about it.
Yeah.
There's no time limit on this.
So, oh gosh. So one that comes to mind is a very long time ago, and I will say that I use it in job interviews frequently, as awful as it was, as the circumstance was. But I was the student council president in my fourth year of university, so senior stick in ag at U of M.
Yeah.
And we had our newsletter editor made the choice to print all of the Aggie songs verbatim in the newsletter and distribute it to all the classes, which, as anybody who understands what those songs are, they're deeply inappropriate and not for print anywhere ever.
Yeah.
Anyway, as student council president, I was the face. And he had actually asked me, he's like, do you want to see this? I'm like, no, surprise me. But like, I trusted he had better judgment than he did.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was on radio, I was on television.
Oh, wow.
I had to write a letter of apology to the university president, who is also a woman, which is very interesting. There were so many things. It was such a deep emergency response. I would call it crisis response, like retrieving all of the newsletters, apologizing to everybody, and just like taking accountability for something that technically I didn't do, but I was responsible for.
Yeah.
And it just, as a result, the president of the university wrote me a letter that was, thank you for this. This was, you did the right thing, and we appreciate that you handled it professionally. And then she wrote a handwritten note and said, it's really easy to guide the flock in sunny weather. It's really hard to do it in a storm.
Oh, wow.
I still have it.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I think it's interesting. I haven't reflected on that in a long time in terms of the accountability. It is. It's about being accountable, even when technically it's not yours. That's what leadership is.
Yeah.
Is ownership as a whole. And I mean, I did have a finger in that pot. There's things I could have done to prevent it, but it was done. And it's one example.
Well, that's an incredible story. And it was probably very difficult at the time. But if you have the belief that things happen for us and not to us,
Yes.
that made you, I can see where that really shaped who you are today.
Yeah, it was, my gosh.
And a number of years later, you're writing books about leadership, right?
It's true. It's true. I have a very optimistic, hopeful view of leadership, despite some of the examples that we have in our world right now.
Right.
And I see in agriculture, what really excites me about family businesses in particular is there's so much evidence that they adopt good habits. They adopt great technology. They are so quick to adopt those things. And so I want to give them something palatable that they can adopt that will change their story, because I know how capable they are. That gets me really excited. For whatever reason, if you think about the legs of a stool in succession and business management, there's, technology has been super adopted, and structure and tax and farm business management has been improving. But the communication leg of the stool, I don't think it's changed in decades.
No.
And if anything, it's gotten shorter since we introduced technology.
Yes.
So let's give it some love. Let's spend some time on it, because these are incredible people, and I have no doubt they can figure this out, and we need to give them the tools to let them do that.
I love that. I think we're gonna take enough of your time today. And I really enjoyed this. But I think, and to your point is, I think the skills and communication that you are helping bring to these family business owners and their families, it actually has greater value, in my opinion, than any form of technology or.
I'm hopeful.
That stuff's kind of cool, right? But what really matters is you learn to communicate as a family and have a family Christmas together, right?
Completely.
You sit around the table and there's little animosity, right?
Well, and the ability to care and the ability to repair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think what you're doing is great. How can people find you?
So the easiest place is www.pattidurand.ca.
Okay.
And that's where you can get the book. That's where you can find out how to connect with me. I do workshops and conferences, and I really am thinking a lot about how to help more people faster. And so that's the mechanism to reach me.
That's great. We're going to include that information in the description of the podcast and in the comments on YouTube there. So
I appreciate it.
this has been a lot of fun.
Thank you. I feel the same way.
I knew it was going to be fun, and it has been a great time. So awesome. I love this. So
good stuff.
Well, thank you, Patti.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.